For the Asooke, which is what I wore for my traditional wedding, the first outfit of my traditional wedding, we are now calling it Iyawo Ologe, which basically means fashionista bride. For this piece, I knew I wanted to look very strong and audacious, and for me, when I was coming up with the concept of this, it seemed a little bit like I need to represent who an Iyawo Ologe bride would look like. For me, the words that came were daring, audacious, confident, someone who stands out in the crowd. What I did actually in creating this piece was I did a lot of research on Asooke because this was a very new territory for me personally. I had worked with Asooke before, but not for myself, not something that I would wear. So it was interesting because I got to discover what I liked about Asooke, what I would normally tilt towards. So I sent a couple of things to Ife, our sketch artist. I sent her a sleeve and I said I like this. I sent her a neckline. I said I like this. I sent her some lines that I'd seen on the pattern before and I said I like this. I told her that okay, I wanted her to put everything together and create a sketch. And when Ife came back to us with the sketch, I think that's the fastest yes I've ever said to Ife, and she just said yes, 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 yes. What we basically did was we wanted to use bias to create texture, but instead of using bias, I told Ife I would like for it to be embroidered, and she placed that on the sketch. When the sketch originally came as well, it was blue and pink. I sent that to the manufacturer and I told them I wanted the blue to look something similar to that. But when they sent back the final design, it was a little bit deeper. So when Ife then sent me back the sketch, I then thought, I'm like, okay, what if we use orange? Let's contrast this in a very unique and different way. I've always seen blue and pink, but I've never seen blue and orange. And I think it worked out because eventually it looked so bright and bold and vibrant, and that's exactly who an Iyawo Ologe bride is. Wearing the piece made me feel like I was wearing an armor almost of confidence, of love, of beauty, of strength. When we were also doing the Asooke, we were thinking about playing with beading, but after looking at it finished, we decided that the color contrast and the embroidery was just enough. I generally believe that clothing and things that you wear is a very good way of telling people who you are before you even speak. And with my Asooke, I wanted to make a very bold statement, and I believe that that is the statement that the Asooke made on my wedding day. I wanted the embroidered line to feel as though it was created with the fabric, so you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the both of them. And also because it's woven as well, it fits perfectly into this kind of this texture of fabric. Exaggerated sleeves just have a way of making you look powerful, so it just felt as though it would be a shame if I did not include that into my Asooke. And because of the texture of the fabric, I knew it was going to work perfectly with how I wanted to look. Growing up, I mean, when I started learning fashion and fashion design, I don't know why exaggerated sleeves always called to me. If I don't have a dress that the sleeve is as big as anything, then I don't feel powerful. So it felt very natural to have it, I guess, woven into my Asooke and created to look like this. The chantilly lace that was added as a contrast was very intentional as well. It was added to soften up the entire look because it seemed very tough, if that makes sense. But chantilly lace is a very delicate fabric, so adding it there was just a way to introduce softness into the entire piece. Asooke is a very temperamental fabric. It needs the right temperatures to use to be ironed. It needs specific set waist to be hung. It needs waist to be folded. Just working with this kind of fabric was a new challenge that was both interesting to take on and a little frustrating. I even said that if I see Asooke in the market, I'll beat it because it was very bad. But generally, I ended up liking how it looked. I ended up liking how it came out. On my wedding day, I felt exactly how I wanted to feel. I felt regal, I felt very tall, I felt very bold, and I felt very confident.